In this video, we're going to show you how to install the valve cover on your Explorer Interceptor located on the rear portion of the engine. Using a 10mm wrench or a socket, you can go ahead and loosen the nut here on the terminal and pop that off. On the sensor right here, we want to remove the connector on it. Now on the bottom side, there is a red lock tab. Sometimes you can use your finger to pop that lock tab over. Other times it could be stuck. I'm going to use a pocket screwdriver. Sometimes using a mirror will help you get to that little tab there. There it is. And once that's released, just going to pinch the tab underneath by that lock tab that we just undid and pull that connector off. And there it is right there. You just want to pull that back. After you've disconnected the harness, we want to go ahead and remove the plastic retainer here. You might have to use a trim tool to get on in there and pop that up and out. And while you're there, we need to disconnect or undo the metal clips here. Just going to pull away on that, and there's one just to the left of it, right underneath the intake tube. There's only two of those. Right here on the side of our intake tube, we want to separate this tube right here. There's a gray clip. You're going to push towards the passenger side and then pull towards you, and it's going to undo that clip, and then just pull that off. Swing that off to the side. Now, if you follow it up here, there's a vacuum hose right in front of the master cylinder. Just pull up on that and separate that. Next step, go ahead and use a flathead screwdriver or an 8mm socket and loosen the hose clamp here for the intake. Now you don't want to undo it, just loosen it up. Next thing you want to do is grab this. We're going to pull this off of the throttle body. With that separated, let's go ahead and lift this up. And as we come over to the air filter lid here, we're going to pull it towards the passenger side because there's 3 lock tabs that go into the air filter base. I'm going to remove this and set it aside. Now, in order to get to the components on the back side of the engine, we have to remove our intake manifold. Before we do that, make sure that the top of your engine is clean of any dirt, debris, leaves, anything like that there. You can use a vacuum or compressed air to go ahead and clean this all off and then tear into it. Using a pair of pliers, we want to pinch this hose clamp here and separate the vacuum hose. Now let's move on over here to this hose right behind the throttle body. Go ahead and separate this harness right here, this little pinch tab, pinch and pull. Right underneath it, there's this tube right here, has a green connector or a green lock tab on it. Now on the driver's side of this here, you're going to see 2 little tabs. You want to pinch those together and push the green tab that way there. Push the green lock tab or button. And you'll see that start to come out, and then pull that out. That's a lock, and go ahead and pull that off. Follow the hose down across the front. We can go ahead and just pop this out of the retainer clips. There's one here and one a little bit further over. And just kind of pull that off to the side. On the side of the throttle body, we have a connector right here. Has a red lock tab. You use a pocket screwdriver, pull that out, and then push down on that tab and pull that off like so. On the front of the intake, we want to go ahead and separate this hose from the retainers. Now this wiring harness here, the fat harness, has or had a tie strap or securing strap here holding it. It's since been broken or someone broke it. But what you want to do is if yours has that, you want to go ahead and separate it from the intake. Use your trim tool, get underneath that, and work that up and out. In our case, we'll have to replace it. Yours, once you pop it out, you'll have that room to go ahead and pull that harness off to the side a little bit. Let's go ahead and use our 8mm socket to go ahead, loosen and remove the series of bolts holding our intake. Make sure all these are fully unthreaded. Now, this is the only bolt that's going to come out. The other ones are all captured. It means that they're kind of stuck in there unless they're forced to come out. Lift up on the intake. And pull that up and off. Before we go any further, you want to go ahead and protect the engine by putting some rags down inside the intake ports here. You don't want to drop anything down inside here. On the top of the coil here, there are going to be red lock tabs. You're going to go ahead and grab that lock tab and pull that out towards you. If it doesn't want to come out, you can go ahead and grab a pocket screwdriver. Pull that up, press down on the tab right in front of the red lock tab and pull that connector off. Pop that off. Right here, there's an 8mm bolt holding the coil in place. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove that. Hold on to that, going to be reusing that. With the bolt removed, go ahead and grab that coil. I'm going to gently twist it and then pull up on it. Now you want to go ahead and repeat that process for the other two. We're going to use our trim tool and we want to separate our wiring harness from the studs on the valve cover. So I'm going to go ahead and pop up these retainer buttons. Now sometimes these are brittle and they can break. Tough one to get to in the back over here. Sometimes using a pair of hose pliers themselves will be a little beneficial here. Make sure you'll be able to pull this back. There's a couple of them on the back side here. Tuck that harness up in the back. And once you get all those separated from the valve cover studs, I'm going to come on over to the VVT solenoids on the front side of the engine here, we need to disconnect those harnesses. Now right here, we have our VVTs. Here's the exhaust and here's the intake down here. Now these have lock tabs on them. I'm gonna use a pocket screwdriver. I'm gonna lift up on that lock tab. And once you have that lock tab lifted, you go ahead and pinch that and pull that connector off. Here it is. I want to repeat that process for the back one, but here it is right here, the little purple lock tab. Now this harness right here, it kind of gives you a little bit of restriction. I'm going to go ahead and separate this here. You may not have to. You might find it easy enough to go ahead and move the harness out of the way. But I'm going to separate that and just tuck that off. And then in order to pop this off, I'm going to use some pliers here and gently grab this. Pop that out. There's a series of 10mm bolts and studs around the perimeter of our valve cover. We're going to use our socket and extension and ratchet to go ahead and loosen this hardware. Now we're just going to continue this process all the way around. Now before we pop off our valve cover here, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect our fuel injector harnesses here. Now the connectors, you can't see them, but they are going to have the red lock tabs, just like our ignition coils did. You're going to pull up on those red tabs. And you can use a small pry tool to go ahead and lift up on those lock tabs. And then once you get the red lock tab off or released, you can go ahead and pinch that connector and separate that. I'm going to repeat this process for the other ones. Now our little red lock tab did pop out. It's not a major issue. These do insert. So we're just going to set that off to the side, pinch that, and pull this connector off. There it is. Goes in. Just like that. Now if you follow this harness around the back, there's going to be a little bracket attached to the valve cover. You use your trim tool, go ahead and pop that bracket up and out. And there it is right there, has a wiring harness attached to it with that bracket. So with that separated, you know, go ahead and lift up our valve cover. Let's go ahead and lift up our valve cover here. Before you install the valve cover, you want to make sure you clean up the RTV here. It's where the timing cover meets the cylinder head. Now, what we're going to use is a plastic razor blade, and we're going to gently clean this here and take that away. We're going to do the same on the back side. There's a little glob on the back side of the engine itself too. Now at this point here, we want to clean off the cylinder head itself. And what you want to do is take your rag and wipe away from the intake. You want to wipe away from the cylinder head. You don't want debris to fall down inside. But you want to make sure that the gasket has a good spot to seal. And do this all the way around. Now right here where the timing cover meets the cylinder head itself, there's going to be a split here in the case. Now you want to go ahead and take a small dab of RTV, like so, and put that right there. I'm going to go ahead and do the same on the back. Let's go ahead and feed our valve cover into place. Line that up. What I'm going to do is push these down on top of the spark plug tube seals as well as your VVTs. You want to go ahead and wiggle that valve cover, and if that valve cover rocks in any direction, that means you got something stuck underneath it. Ours is planted nice and solid. It's not moving at all. Let's go ahead and start to thread in our studs all the way around. Now that we ran all of our studs down and we gently snugged them, now we're going to go ahead and torque these down to 7.4 foot-pounds. Now what you want to do is go ahead and carefully follow the torque pattern shown on the screen. Let's start in this back corner here. Let's now go ahead and install our wiring harness. Install our injector connectors, and don't forget, once you install anything with these red clips on there, they will not install if the clip is not all the way up. You'll feel the connector lock in and then press that lock tab down. And these little plastic retainers, pop those into place. Install the connectors on your VVT solenoids. Don't forget to push down your purple lock tabs on your VVT solenoids. Install the PCV. And twist that in. There's a little arrow clip here that locks into the valve cover. Grab your ignition coils. Go ahead and get the studs started, or the bolt. Tighten these down. Once they bottom out, just give them a tiny bit more. That's it. When installing your coil harness here, make sure that the red lock tab is fully out. If it is halfway in, it will not go on and clip. So make sure that tab is fully retracted. Line it up. Go ahead and push it on. Once you feel and hear that connector click, press that red lock tab in, make sure that it's fully seated. And repeat that process for the other ones. Go ahead and connect this connector here. We now remove the rags from our intake or our lower intake. Make sure the lower intake surface is clean of any debris. Make sure when you're wiping, you wipe it away from the ports. Now installing the intake, you want to make sure that the intake gasket is still in good condition. And how you do this is you can run your finger along the gasket. As long as the gasket protrudes further than the surface of the plastic, then your gasket is still good and reusable. If that gasket feels like it's flush with that plastic, go ahead and replace that. Ours is in still good condition, so we're gonna go ahead and reuse it. Go ahead and line this up. I'm going to go ahead and start getting the bolts started by hand. Install the upper bolt. Once you have all these started, we can go ahead and run those down. Now we're not going to tighten these down fully, we're just going to run them down until the bolts gently snug, and then we're going to come back and torque them down. Let's now go ahead and torque down our intake bolts. We're going to torque these to 7.4 foot-pounds. Watch on the screen for the pattern that this needs to be torqued in. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7. Go ahead and run this hose over and snap it into its retainers. I'm going to push that on. Go ahead and press the green lock tab in. Take your electronic connector here. Make sure that the red lock tab is in the outward position. Press it on and then press the red lock tab in. Take the upper connector, line that up. Press it on, you can hear and feel it lock into place. Install this little coolant hose here and here. Press the plastic hose into the rubber one here. Move your hose clamp into position and release that. Install this vacuum hose here. Now installing the air filter lid here, there's the 3 tabs. You want to make sure that those lock into the base. So as we bring this over, you want to get those pushed in. Make sure there's nothing blocking the installation over here. Work that intake tube onto the throttle body. Wiggle that into place. Make sure you run your fingers around this here and make sure that that is fully seated and not rolled over or kinked in any fashion. Now that's on there, go ahead and tighten down that hose clamp. Make sure that's good and snug. And once we're done there, just come on up to the vacuum hose in the back. All you have to do is line that up and wiggle that down into position. Take this line here. Now it automatically goes into its auto lock position, so all you have to do is line that up and push it on. You can hear and feel it click into place. On the air filter lid, we want to go ahead and connect the metal lock tabs on here. So push down on that cover and just push on the lock tabs. Do that for the inside one too. Install your electrical connector. Don't forget, red lock tab, make sure that tab is in the full out position. Push that on and then press in the lock tab. Don't forget to install your little plastic retainer button here. Line that up and push it on. Install the ground terminal on your battery. And then snug it down. Once that bottoms out, just give it a little bit more. Grab that terminal, give it a wiggle, make sure it's good and tight. At this point here, you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.